Welcome, adventurers. You have once again found your way back to the realms of adventure. I'd like to welcome you here, and today I would also like to share with you the events that occurred in the third session of the ShadowDark campaign that I've been running for, I think I've got a half dozen players. Tentatively, we're titling this whole campaign A Malevolent Shade of Darkness, which is kind of a preposterous name, but whatever. Presumptuous, preposterous. It is both of those things. Anyway, I am way behind. So session 3 was actually a month ago, but with the holidays and then the holidays. It's really just the holidays and everything that goes into the new year. So, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about ShadowDark Episode 3 Confronting the Scarlet Minotaur. We had 5 of us, 6 of us. I guess I've got to count myself. There were 6 of us at the table. I was running the game. We had Grim McFugelbutt, dwarf priest of the lost. He's a lawful guy. That's Bob. Heralia, our elf priest of Ged. She's neutral, and that's going to be played by Carolyn. Human, which is Mike. He's a human thief of the chaotic variety. Uh, Ithor is Brent. He is an elf wizard of the lawful bent. And uh, with his second character, Joshua is playing Jack Mule, human fighter, neutral. So, with all of that out of the way, those were our 5 players. So, in the preamble section, I would have to say that Josh's character died in session 1, I guess it was. Yeah, died in session 1. He missed session 2, where I reiterated a number of rules that we had gotten wrong. And so to begin, he had to make a new character, and I reiterated all the rules, explanations, and clarifications from the last time. Um, so he created Jack Mule, the human fighter. Pick up where we left off. Our crawlers on the run from the Corvin's Crest Town Guard, having sprung the notorious pirate Prince, Captain Bartholomew Morgan Crunch, from his imprisonment and spared him from the noose. The town guards chased them through the warehouse district, and Jack Mule, our new character, got caught up in the chase as the guards mistook him for one of the crawlers. Um, they're running through the low district, dodging around warehouses and whatnot, and a dwarf sticks his head out and rushes the group. A lot of hand waving and come on, come this way. And he rushes them into a secret hideout. And it's basically just a big empty warehouse. Not a big, it's a small warehouse that they're using as a hideout. And apparently, the dwarf is a member of Captain Morgan Crunch's crew. And while they're in there, the captain explained his dilemma, which is that um, he's lost his ship. He doesn't know where it's at. He came ashore, spent a lot of time drinking and partying, then got thrown in Huskow with the town guard, and his first mate and his the girlfriend of the first mate, and several other folks have gone adventuring, uh, presumably to the citadel of the Scarlet Minotaur. It That first mate knows where the ship is for certain because he's the first mate. But what the characters realize is that the first mate is Orwin the Younger, whose corpse they found in session one. And Orwin's girlfriend, Lucy, is nowhere to be found, presumably somewhere in the Citadel, but they're not 100% on that. And they had found um, several other crawlers that had met their fate at the hands of the Ettercaps in the previous episodes. So now they know they need to find Lucy because Lucy probably knows where Orwin uh, put the boat. It's got to be anchored somewhere. They don't know where, the captain doesn't know where. So that's just a little hook I threw out there. So they need to go back to the Citadel and find this Lucy. Uh, where whatever remains of her band of crawlers. Having caroused away most of their gold, our band of crawlers decided to once more cross the scrubland, brave the cicadas, and delve the citadel one more time. Not just to find Lucy, but because they're kind of broke. So, if you remember, the Lost Citadel. Long ago, a mighty enclave of warriors lived inside the Lost Citadel. They worshipped bulls in ever bloodier cultist rituals that culminated in their leader, fellow by the name of Minoros, transforming into the Scarlet Minotaur. This immortal avatar of rage slaughtered the warriors in a single night of mayhem. However, some of their servants escaped through the unseen halls used by the lowly. Uh, these beastmen, they'd been transformed into beastmen. And these beastmen hid in the fallen citadel, trapped by a superstitious fear of the outside. That's the background. The citadel itself, cicadas buzz in the arid scrubland around the citadel. Thick sandy blocks and coral red columns hold up its tiered rooftops. They're 30, 40 feet high and flat. Um, the enclosed interior is a cool, dark maze of vaulted chambers and halls that funnel into a central courtyard. The crawlers decided to try the back door and potentially avoid the denizens of the southern temple that they had upset in their last visit. They had scouted the grounds on the first visit and decided the northeast entrance seemed the place for their next sojourn. Beyond the shattered stone door, they found a stone narrow hall and a stairwell leading back into the dark maze of the citadel. Turning left and following the corridor, they came upon a long, wide chamber with an intact bull statue at the near end. They could see that in their torchlight. They had seen one of these enormous bronze bulls bent and broken on their first foray into the citadel. Um, the one a mere 20 feet away was intact, towering 10 feet high at the shoulder, its horns lowered for the charge, and perhaps most disturbing, the skeleton of some unfortunate adventurer stuck upon its horns. Kind of behind that skeleton and maybe between, it's a skeleton. They could see glimmering in their torchlight uh, a large emerald fitted in the bull's forehead. Ithor suspected magic in that jewel and cast his spell of magical detection, confirming his suspicion. With a second and then a third spell, he shattered the emerald with a magic missile and then followed it up with a bit more magical detection. And he no longer detected the magic. And at that point, we sent Hugh forward to retrieve the gem and investigate the skeleton. And it turned out, yeah, it's another shattered emerald. They found a shattered emerald in episode one, session one, whatever you want to call it, session, episode, I don't know. Which sounds better? You tell me. Anyway, so the shattered emerald is worth about 20 gold pieces. Up close, the bronze bull was terrifying. Its bulk was such that had it still been active, the 15-foot ceiling and 10-foot wide corridor would have offered very little room for escape. The worn flagstone and pairs of deep holes punched into the wall opposite the statue offered little assurance. Their map shows that there are several more of these located throughout, so they got lucky with this one. They may not get lucky with the next one. The perpendicular hall at the end of the bull run drew them north, and what they discovered there ensured the southern hall went unexplored. The maze led them to the antechamber of a larger, more ornate chamber. They would come to know this as the Gauntlet of Pain, but upon first glimpsing it, they saw a large chamber lined with colorful pillars. The light did not reach the far end of the reliquary. Reliquarium? Reliquarium. Let's go with that. Reliquarium. It did reach far enough to see three pairs of painted pillars, each pair capped in black marble and painted in rich jeweled tones. First emerald, then sapphire, and at the edge of the torchlight, emerald. Between the sapphire and emerald columns was the scorched body of a purple, spindly humanoid laying face down in the center of the space. An ettercap, a most unfortunate ettercap. The crawlers stood where they entered and used a light spell upon a small stone, tossed that stone to the far end of the chamber, revealing yet another pair of pillars, these a bright amethyst color. And beyond those, sunken into a black marble altar, was a brightly polished bronze greatsword. Magic radiated from the near pillars, but the spell couldn't reach the sword, so they didn't know if it was magical. Uh, there was nothing to do but advance. So Hugh approached the corpse looking for clues or loot. As he crossed the line of the ruby columns, he was engulfed in flame as every flammable item on his person burst into flame. Grim and either met the same fate as they tested the columns and attempted to come to his aid. Ithor retreated. Grim did not immediately. Attempting to break the spell of the sorcerer's pillars, they moved forward past a pair of sapphire pillars. That was the second set. The flames didn't go out, they did not extinguish, but their lungs filled with the sting and burn of a magically summoned salt water. The ocean filled their lungs. Grim nearly drowned, but retreated, and as he did so, the effects subsided. As he crossed that threshold, the drowning effect went away. So he continued to retreat past the ruby columns, and the flames went out. Or he was able to put the flames out anyway. They were no longer magically manifesting themselves. From this location, Nearly atop the Ettercap corpse, Hugh noted that the clawed eyes had salt rime stained fur. He knew what his fate was going to be if he continued. He's looking at it. It's like this thing is burnt. Its eyes are clawed out. It salt stained. It's not good. But the altar was still beyond 2 pairs of the accursed pillars, and he'd already come this far. He wasn't sure he wanted to go back. You can only give people so much damage, and then they die. Um, Now, the exact order of things beyond this point becomes a little uncertain, but Jack heard the distinct and clear approach of hooved feet on the flagstone moments before the arrival of the Scarlet Minotaur. It stalked into the reliquarium, 9 feet tall, wine red fur, snorting and snorting, snorting and bellowing challenges, pawing the earth with its hooves. A bronze two-headed great axe, already wet with blood in its hand. Hugh charged forward toward the altar, and the sword embedded within. Heralia set to healing Grim, and Ithor's light went out. Just gone. Just dumb luck. I don't remember if the timer went out or if it was something else, but the light goes out. And then the Minotaur was upon them. It's just like, oh man, things are about to get bad. Um, Flame, drowning, poisoned, and finally blind, Hugh reaches the altar. It With the last of his strength, he manages to lift the great sword free from the altar. It's like embedded in there, and he manages to yank it out. It was a I don't know DC 12 or something. Not terribly hard, but he was not in good shape. At the end of the reliquarium, at the other end of the reliquarium, he's Q's down there at the altar. At the other end, by the entrance, chaos had taken hold. The Scarlet Minotaur was laying about itself with axe and horn. Horrible wounds were dealt to the crawlers. Ithor was able to summon the light just in time to see Grim get dashed across the chamber with a horrible wound spraying his lifeblood. Blades swept and spells were hurled. Blind and nearly dead, Hugh dragged the sword toward the fight, thinking this will help. He won't. He's going to die, but maybe the sword will help somebody. With each pair of pillars he crossed, though, the curses fell away, but the damage was high and the effects were terrible. Jack battled the Minotaur. Ithor was throwing spells at it. Grim bled and ended up dying. Heralia had to attack because she literally could not get past the Minotaur and the fighting to get to Grim to heal him. At least not in time to heal his wounds and save him. Uh, the Scarlet Minotaur finally went down, but the cost was pretty high. I mean, Grim did we lost Grim, so he died. And at that point, Hugh comes stumbling past the last of the columns and just collapses. He's burnt, he's poisoned, he's half drowned. He's dragged the great sword all the way across. It just lays at the ground next to him. But Heralia could help. Heralia was able to heal up. So the crawlers gathered their spoils, the axe of the Scarlet Minotaur. They took it was wearing a chainmail coat, so they took that as well. And now they've got the sword from the altar. And even though they had only explored really 2 rooms, they had lost a friend and gotten pretty badly beat up. I think Heralia might have lost her healing spell, and they didn't have their other cleric. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it was pretty bad. They won, but they won quite a gruesome fight. So they lost a friend, and all were sorely wounded. and none wished to further chance their fate. And so they left the citadel and buried their companion, and then returned to Corvin's Crest. That's the little town that everything starts in. The sword, I rolled up some stuff for the sword. Um, the adventure calls it Asterion, but I all right, here's what really happened. I didn't read enough, so I rolled up attributes for the sword that the sword already has attributes. Whatever. It gets extra stuff. Anyway, so I made Asterion, which is the name of the sword. Uh, it, I call it Asterion, the primordial sword of time. It's a bronze great sword +1, just magic sword. It trails sparkles, is like just a feature, I guess we'll call it. Once a day, it can deflect a melee attack that would hit you. You just say, I'm using the, and it blocks it. And from the module, um, a creature cannot move the wielders against their wills. So basically your feet are locked in place. You can't be pushed around if you so choose. However, it does have a bit of a curse in that you're burned by the touch of gold. So that's going to make things a little tricky. But there's always gems and silver and magic and whatnot. The axe, Bloodlust, which is what it's called in the adventure. But again, I did the same thing with the axe I did with the sword. So it became Bloodlust, the Whispering Axe of the Wilds. It's a bronze great axe +1 magic axe. Um, it its feature is that it whispers in an unknown language. The benefit is that it will behead an enemy on a critical hit, or if the enemy doesn't have a head, it does ×4 damage. Just multiply the damage by 4. The curse being that it has to be bathed in blood daily, or it temporarily loses its magic. And then they grab the chainmail as well. So I believe Jack took the chainmail, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the new character ended up with the sword. They got these weapons, but then they shifted it around. By the next session, everybody they belong to different people. Who cares? Whatever. We'll deal with that as it comes. Anyway, on the return trip, they met a human warrior, Van Hagar, who is Bob's new character, who had been chasing their trail in hopes of joining them and sharing in the glory of their adventures. It felt fated. It felt meant to be. And the crawlers welcomed the newcomer to their ranks, and by the time they'd made it back to town, they were all fast friends. And then they did a little carousing. The group celebrated their success and survival and toasted the loss of their friend with a worthy night of drinking and festivity, which is the lowest level of carousing. Um, Paralia and Ithor spent a worthy night drinking, boasting, and dancing at the Blade and Anvil Tavern. Each of them woke up literally in their own beds the next morning, which got them an additional 2 XP. Hugh Man and Jack Mule engaged in an epic blindfolded knife throwing demonstration. Both survived unscathed. Uh, they basically, like, they're blindfolded. They're throwing knives. They're lucky they didn't lose an ear or get a knife in the forehead. Anyway, they both survived and remained unscathed by their bravado, which gets them a luck token and 4 experience points. Because Bob had been part of the whole adventure, we didn't want to, cut him out of the carousing, and they're all friends now. So Van Hagar did some carousing with them, He got bilked by the Thieves Guild. They ended up taking like 5% of whatever gold he had, but he did manage to get 4 XP out of that night of carousing. So, and that is basically all that happened in the third session of our ShadowDark. We got started a little bit late because we had to do some rules explanation and make a character, and then it was just wild once they hit that room with the columns in it. We lost another character, so that's 3 sessions. We've lost 2 characters. Everybody seems to still be having fun. I'm having fun. I think that's all there is to it. I'm going to get back to working on putting together another one of these for you for session number 4, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for stopping by, and I wish you good adventures. It voluminous booty, lots of treasure. Have a great day.